They told us the dark side was lifeless, that the far side of the moon, cloaked in eternal night hidden from Earth's gaze, was the safest place for a long-term research installation. No solar flares, no meteor threats, no interference. Just black silence and our mission to study lunar geology and test sustainability protocols for deep space colonization. We were a crew of 14, scientists, engineers, ex-military security, highly vetted, highly trained. I was the communications officer, tasked with maintaining satellite relays, data encryption, and Earth uplinks. We called the base Station Eden, though in hindsight, the name feels ironic. Our year was scheduled down to the hour. But no schedule, no preparation, no earthbound intelligence could have accounted for what we found, or what we unleashed. It started in Sector 7, a deep sublunar cavern discovered 3 months into the mission. A geologist named Vera was the first to notice the odd electromagnetic readings. Beneath the basalt layers, there was something emitting a steady pulse, faint, rhythmic, almost organic in pattern. We assumed it was geological until the probes started transmitting anomalies, textures and structures that weren't natural. They weren't alien, exactly. They were too similar to human design, but older. Much older. We kept it quiet. We were under strict orders from Lunar Command not to alarm Earth. The deeper we dug, the more wrong everything felt. Then we hit the chamber. It wasn't large, maybe the size of a small hangar. Carved walls, hexagonal pillars, and in the center, what looked like a containment pod, sealed, humming softly, etched in symbols no one recognized. The air was still, dry, sterile. But even through the helmets, I swear it smelled infected, a kind of rotten ozone like spoiled electricity. We sent drones first. The footage came back corrupted, full of flickers and audio distortions that didn't exist during transmission. Eventually someone, Dr. Liao, decided we had to breach it. Curiosity, pride, orders. I'm not sure which pushed her hand. Maybe all three. We cut it open. That's when we heard the scream. Not from Liao, not from the chamber. It came through the base comm system, Channel 9, which no one was using. A garbled human wail, as if someone were trapped inside the feed itself. It lasted 6 seconds. That's all. But in that moment, the lights across the station dimmed. My console rebooted itself and I felt a pressure behind the eyes, like something had looked into me and didn't like what it saw. Liao collapsed seconds later. She wasn't dead, but she wasn't awake either, catatonic, twitching. Her pupils dilated into 2 full moons. We placed her in quarantine and protocol kicked in. No one was allowed near her without full biocontainment, but by then, it was already too late. Within 48 hours, 2 more crew members fell. First with tremors, then bloodshot eyes, then uncontrollable aggression. They would scream, claw, and bite at anything in reach. It wasn't rabies. It wasn't any known pathogen. We called it Protocol Black. Lockdown initiated, full base quarantine. But containment only works when the enemy follows rules. This thing didn't. It wasn't spreading by contact alone. It was in the communications, in the frequencies. It was using our own systems as a transmission vector. And I was the one maintaining them. I tried to isolate the signal, shut down the core relays, block external and internal transmissions. But every time I thought I'd contained it, it reappeared. Like it was learning, like it was adapting. The infected weren't mindless. That was the worst part. They were coordinated, their attacks were precise, strategic. They moved in silence, eyes glowing faintly in the shadows of the corridors. Their skin grayed, but they weren't decomposing. They were something else. Something halfway between life and signal. We lost 6 more within a week, including Commander Reese. That's when the hallucinations began. I know what you're thinking. Isolation, PTSD, cabin fever. But no, these weren't imagined. They were shared. We all saw them. Shadows where there was no light source. Voices whispering coordinates we'd never programmed. Screens that turned on even after we cut power. The moon itself felt aware. Like something ancient had woken and we were trespassers in its domain. I found myself speaking to the systems at night, begging, bargaining. I don't even remember doing it sometimes. One by one, the crew fell. Some attacked each other, some disappeared into the cavern and never came back. And the ones who remained, we weren't sure they were still themselves. The silence was the hardest part, not the screaming, not the violence. The silence. When the base got too quiet, it meant one of two things. Either someone was dead or they weren't human anymore. I stopped sleeping in my assigned bunk. I moved operations to Comm Bay 3, locked the doors, reinforced them with supply crates, and rerouted auxiliary power to maintain isolation. I only opened it once a day, to scavenge food, water, batteries, or when I had to dispose of bodies. I buried Reese in the hydroponics lab. It felt wrong to let him rot in the hallway. But after the third burial, I stopped. There were too many. And even then, sometimes, they didn't stay buried. There was a moment, I think it was day 216, when I almost opened an external uplink to Earth. Just to scream, to warn them. But I didn't. I was afraid whatever was in the system would hitch a ride on the signal. I couldn't risk it. I initiated a hard firewall lockdown, encrypted every transmission port manually. You don't understand how hard that is with decaying code and power fluctuations. My hands shook constantly. I began recording logs on analog devices just in case. There was something wrong with the base AI too. It had started using past crew voices when speaking. Once it called me by my mother's name. She's been dead for over 10 years. By then, only 4 of us were left. Me, Vera, the geologist who found the chamber, Navin, and Hassan. We stuck to opposite ends of the base. We didn't talk much. We didn't need to. The fear had calcified into routine. Then one morning, I found Navin at my door. Not knocking, not yelling, just standing, staring through the narrow window panel. His eyes looked sunken, lips gray. I called his name. Nothing. I flicked the exterior lights. Protocol for nonverbal crew communication. He didn't flinch, just stood there 12 minutes, then he walked away. I never saw him again. The virus, if you can even call it that, wasn't just changing them, it was rewriting them. Cell by cell, thought by thought. It used their memories as bait, projected voices through the vents, replicated footsteps outside sealed doors. I knew better. But still, some nights I heard Liao crying in the air ducts or Reese whispering behind the data cores. And a few times, I answered back. It was instinct. Loneliness dulls logic, and that's what it fed on. Loneliness, doubt, hope. I kept recording everything, writing notes, drawing diagrams, mapping movement patterns of the infected. If I couldn't stop it, at least someone would know what happened. Vera was the last to fall. She'd been quiet for days, refusing food, sketching symbols from the chamber on the walls of the medical bay. She said they spoke to her, told her the moon wasn't dead, just dreaming. She wanted to go back into the cavern. I begged her not to. She smiled, kissed my forehead through the glass, and walked into the dark with no suit, no oxygen, just humming some melody I didn't recognize. The doors locked behind her. I checked the security feed once, just once. I wish I hadn't. I wish I didn't see what waited for her there, because it looked up at the camera and smiled. After that, I disabled all feeds, disconnected the surveillance system. The less I knew, the safer I was. It was just me then, the only uninfected human on the dark side of the moon. I stopped logging the days. I didn't want to count anymore. All I focused on was the final transmission. One last message. Not to report, not to seek rescue, but to warn, to beg. And I knew I had to wait until just the right moment, until the signal lines aligned and I could shoot a narrowband pulse directly to Earth without compromise. I'd only have 60 seconds, no more. I've rehearsed it 100 times in my head, just in case I forget who I am before I get the chance. I think it's in the vents again tonight, scraping gently, taunting me. The power cells are nearly drained. My rations are low. My mind, I'm not sure how much longer I can trust it. But the transmission window opens in 3 days, and I will hold on. I have to. For Earth. For the crew. For anyone who ever dreamed of setting foot on this cursed, silent rock. Because once you're here, it doesn't let you leave. Not really. Not whole. I keep finding things moved. Small things, nothing dramatic. A screwdriver missing from my belt, a water ration half opened, the tape reels for my analog logs, rewound. At first, I thought it was sleepwalking. Then I stopped sleeping. I've been awake for, 40 hours? More? The base clocks have all gone haywire. They spin and blink like they're caught in a feedback loop. And the moon, well, it doesn't give you time. It gives you silence, darkness, and the reflection of your own breath fogging your helmet as a reminder that you're still alive. For now. Sometimes I wonder if the virus even needs bodies, if it just pretends. If it mimics the people we lost to get close, to survive. There was a theory Liao once whispered to me before she collapsed, that it was never a virus, not really, not biological, not electromagnetic. Something older, a presence, a will. It used the pod in the cavern as a kind of anchor, a lighthouse drawing the living in. She said it had been dormant for millennia, waiting for something with thoughts, language, a mind to inhabit. And we gave it exactly that. We handed it a ship, a system, and a crew full of memories. The infected aren't just attacking to kill. They whisper, they mimic, they beg. "Hassan," he screamed as we burned the central tunnel. But his scream had my voice. The exact pitch, the exact words I used 2 nights before, pleading with Vera not to go back into the cavern. It replicated me. Or worse, it remembered me. Sometimes I catch myself speaking out loud, not realizing I'd been doing it. Whole conversations. Then I check the logs and there's nothing. No audio, just static. The moon has a way of pulling thoughts from your skull and stretching them until you're not sure if they're yours anymore. I've sealed Comm Bay 3 completely. Air vents soldered shut. No more power from the main grid. I'm living on backup cells scavenged from the rover pods. I eat cold protein gel and sip recycled water like it's wine. There's nothing left to do now except prepare for the final message. The words need to be exact, no emotion, no pauses. I must warn them without giving it a path back. That's the trick. I think that's what happened last time. Because there was a last time. Vera's carvings, those weren't random. They were stories, images of other bases, other moons, other beings. She decoded enough to learn the truth. We weren't the first to open that chamber. We were just the first to call it science. The others, whoever they were, tried to bury it, to trap it, to isolate it in darkness. That's why the chamber was on the dark side. No light, no signal, no sound, just sleep. We woke it up. I don't think it ever intended to kill us. It wanted us to listen. And when we didn't, it made us. My voice is weaker now. I've recorded the message onto 3 drives. 1 stays with me, 1 I've hidden in the rover dock buried beneath the regolith. The 3rd, I'll eject that into low lunar orbit manually. If it drifts long enough, maybe Earth will find it, maybe someone will listen. Or maybe it will never be heard, and that's the best we can hope for. I've thought about ending it, walking into the vacuum without a suit. Quiet. Final. But then I hear the static again. And I know it's not just a virus, it's waiting, it's watching, it's patient, and I refuse to be its mouthpiece. Not yet. I tested the uplink node today. 1 last systems check before the transmission window opens. It flickered at first like something was pushing back. I've learned not to trust that flicker. It means the thing is listening. I reinforced the encryption, created a rotating cipher with manual inputs, no digital shortcuts. I'll only get 1 shot, 1 clean burst before the signal is corrupted, hijacked, or worse, answered. My hands shook the whole time I worked. Not from fear, from fatigue. And maybe a little cold. The base hasn't had heating for 2 weeks now. Every surface is cold enough to bite. Hassan's journal entries were the last thing I read before burning the archive room. He wrote that the infected weren't dead. They were dreaming, caught in some network of thought, like their minds had been uploaded into a single consciousness. And worse, that sometimes he felt it brushing against his own thoughts, at first gently, then more aggressively, like a tooth probing soft gum. He said it knew his fears, used them against him, replayed memories until he forgot which were real. I remember those last lines perfectly. If it's in the mind, it's already won. This virus doesn't need to escape the moon, it just needs you to remember it. I haven't slept in 3 days, I won't let it in. I repeat facts to myself constantly to stay anchored. My name is Lieutenant Elias Rourke. I was born in Tucson, Arizona. My mother's name was Layla. My first memory is of sunlight through a kitchen window. If I forget those things, I'll know it's winning. I'll know I'm no longer me. And if that happens before I send the message, then I'll destroy everything. The drives, the base, even myself. I ran a simulation this morning. Power will last just long enough to send a compressed burst and then fry the entire relay station with a feedback overload. It'll render the system useless, irreparable. I'll be cut off completely. But that's the point. No one else must ever connect to this place again. There's something ancient here. Not in body, but in thought. Something that doesn't forget. Something that waits. And it learned us too quickly. Picked us apart too easily. If it ever gets a foothold on Earth's networks, we're not looking at infection. We're looking at assimilation. Tomorrow is transmission day. The final task. One voice through a dying machine speaking across the void. I've rehearsed it again and again. I know the words. I just hope I have the strength to speak them. The moon was unusually still today. No groans in the metal, no flickering lights, no footsteps in the corridor outside Combay 3. Just the oppressive silence of a place that never wanted us here in the first place. It almost felt like it was waiting. Like it knew what I was about to do. I didn't eat, didn't sleep. I sat there in the dark with the drives pressed to my chest and counted my breaths. 97 in, 97 out, over and over, until my pulse steadied and the tremor in my fingers subsided enough to press the ignition key on the uplink terminal. As soon as the system powered up, the base pushed back. Lights across the station surged, doors slammed. A shrill static rang through every speaker simultaneously, like something screaming underwater. I almost aborted. My instincts told me this was a trap, that the moment I spoke it would trace me, twist my message, mimic my voice, and send something else in my place. But I'd prepared for this. I manually engaged the analog gate. I inserted the drive and sealed the burst relay with an 8-second countdown. No adjustments, no reversals. Once the countdown hit 0, the signal would fire. 7 seconds. The lights above me turned red. 6. The static turned into a voice, not just one, many, layered, familiar. My mother, my commander, Vera, all calling me by name. 5. I covered my ears, but it didn't matter. The voices weren't external. They were inside me, whispering in the gaps between my thoughts. 4. You don't have to do this, Elias, they said. You're not alone. We've missed you. 3. I bit my tongue until I tasted blood. That anchored me. That was real. 2. Come home. 1. The transmission launched. A clean narrowband burst. My voice, pre-recorded and encoded, beamed directly toward Earth on a low-gain rotating frequency that wouldn't be intercepted or distorted unless someone was actively listening. I included the full logs, bioscans, atmospheric readings, and every relevant file that hadn't been corrupted. My final message was short, just enough to fit in the burst. No emotion, no poetry, just fact. This is Lieutenant Elias Rourke of Station Eden. Do not come to the dark side of the moon. Do not respond to any transmission from this base. We woke something. It learns, it remembers, it is not contained. Repeat, do not return. Rourke out. I watched the signal disappear into space. A simple blink on a dead monitor. Then I activated the overload protocol. The relay burst into sparks. The screen went black. My connection to Earth, gone. For good. And still, The moon was silent. For the first time since the infection began, I cried. Not out of fear, not from loneliness, but because I finally felt like I had done something that mattered. That maybe someone out there would hear my voice, heed my warning, and stay away from this place. The dark side of the moon wasn't meant for human boots, or human thoughts, or human ambition. It was a vault, sealed for reasons we'll never fully understand. And we, with our instruments and theories and pride, picked the lock. I've shut down everything now. No lights, no screens. Just me, a solar lantern, and a pen. Writing helps. It keeps my mind from drifting too far into the static. I draw symbols sometimes, not because I want to, but because they crawl into my head while I sleep. Even now, I can feel the pull. It's subtle, like the moon is humming just under the threshold of hearing, threading thoughts like needles through my skull. I resist by remembering the taste of coffee, the sound of rain, the warmth of my dog's fur against my leg back on Earth. Earth feels like a dream now, a place too soft, too full of light to be real. I hear them still, the others, scraping along the corridor walls, murmuring through the ventilation ducts I sealed weeks ago. I know they're not real, or at least not real in the way they once were. They're echoes, reflections of minds that got folded and rewritten by something ancient and patient. Sometimes I wonder if I'm one of them now, if I've been infected and just haven't noticed. But then I press my tongue against my bitten lip, feel the sting, and remind myself, this pain is mine. This choice is mine. I haven't seen another human in 23 days. The base is a tomb. My rations are down to 5 meals. Power's gone. Even the emergency batteries are starting to fail. I spend my time watching shadows crawl across the ceiling. They move too slowly to notice at first, but if you stare long enough, you can tell they're not shaped right, not natural. I don't chase them. I let them be. Whatever they are, they're more curious than hostile now. I think they're studying me, deciding. Sometimes I wonder if this was all part of its plan. If waking it was just step 1 and step 2 was sending me back changed, infected in some invisible, irreversible way. But I shut that down quick. I didn't go back into the chamber. I didn't let it in. My mind is still mine, even if it's fraying at the edges. That has to count for something. That has to mean I'm still human, right? I don't pray. Never really did. But sometimes I speak into the dark, just in case someone's listening. Not it, someone else, someone alive. I don't ask for rescue, just forgiveness. It's colder now. Even with the emergency heat coils wrapped around my suit's lining, the chill seeps in like fog beneath the door. I can feel my breath slowing. My fingers have started to stiffen. I dropped a pen this morning and stared at it for nearly an hour, unsure whether it was worth the energy to pick it back up. These small decisions feel enormous now. Everything does. Every movement, every thought, each breath, deliberate, measured, like rationing sanity. I went back to the main observation deck today. It's the only place in the station with a clear view of the Earthrise. I hadn't seen it in weeks. Even now, even after everything, it caught my breath. That distant blue orb, floating in velvet black, so bright, so fragile. I used to stare at it during the first few weeks, imagining the lives down there. People walking dogs, cooking dinner, fighting about politics, laughing over bad movies. The thought that I might be the last line of defense between them and this, it was unbearable at first. Now it's just weight, a familiar weight, like a coat I never took off. I can't help but replay it all in my head. The choices, the steps, the moment Liao reached for the panel and I didn't stop her. Could I have changed it? Could I have saved anyone? Maybe, but probably not. This wasn't a human error. This was contact, first contact. Just not in the form we expected. Not chips and creatures and messages carved in golden plates. No, this was contact on a cognitive level, a mental infection. And we were soft, so soft. Our minds, our networks, Even our dreams opened doors we didn't know we'd left unlocked. I've kept the last drive with me, the one with the original recordings, the one I never transmitted. Not the warning, but everything else. The personal files, the confessions, the dreams. I've debated destroying it, smashing it against the deck, scattering the pieces. But some part of me wants it to survive, not for Earth, not for analysis, for memory. So that someone someday knows we were here, that we tried. That even as the dark closed in, we didn't go quietly. Tomorrow I'll seal this bay one last time. I'll take the capsule with the drive and leave it in the decompression chamber. I've programmed a timed release. If no one finds it within 6 months, it'll eject into orbit, drifting endlessly, a ghost among stars. After that, I don't know. I woke up on the floor this morning. I don't remember falling asleep. That's the first time that's happened since the infection started. I must have blacked out. 32 minutes. Gone. When I came to, the door to Comm Bay 3 was open. I never leave it open. I checked the logs. No breach detected. No system alerts. This is my final message. If you're hearing this, the capsule made it off the moon. It's floating somewhere in orbit now, carrying this warning. And that's all this is now. A warning. A plea. For the love of everything we've built, do not return to the dark side of the moon. Do not attempt rescue. Do not investigate. Do not follow this signal. We unleashed something we didn't understand. It wasn't alien tech or some buried relic. It was a virus. Engineered, maybe ancient, I don't know. But once it was exposed to oxygen, to light, it woke up. It started with tremors, fever, delirium. Then it got worse. Death didn't stop it. That's when the screaming started, when they came back. Not just reanimated, changed, driven, hungry. I'm the last breathing human on this base. I've destroyed the comm relays, wiped the AI, buried the files. Everything's dead here, except for them. They hunt the corridors in silence now, waiting. They're smart. They don't charge anymore. They stalk. They have adapted at an alarming rate. This message is sealed, air-gapped. It can't carry the virus. I made sure of that. But if you come back here, if you land, if you step foot on this cursed rock again, it will spread. And Earth will burn. This is Lieutenant Elias Rourke, final survivor of the lunar outpost. Do not return. I repeat, do not return. A long pause washed over us. Sergeant Avery looked over and with a sorrow gaze and said, "These men and women that died on that station will not be forgotten. They will not be going quietly into the night. Let's make sure their suffering didn't go in vain." Graver input the nuclear launch codes. Lima, 3, 7, Carly, 2, Papa, Kilo, 5, Victor, Hotel, 9. Ignition launch ready. Gopher ready. Launching now. We watched as the missile launched, guiding the nuke towards the lunar base. It took 32 seconds for it to reach its target before detonating with a blinding light. We saw the lunar dust get kicked out for miles out from ground zero. The explosion looked like a bubbling mass that collapsed on itself. Not long after, Sergeant Avery called out commands grounding us back to reality. Comms? Check. Boosters? Check. Power output? Check. Oxygen? Check. All right, guys, let's head home. We've got a lot of explaining to do when we get back.